Take a slow breath and stay with me for a moment, because this is not one of those messages you hear and forget 5 seconds later. This is for the person who has felt something they could never fully explain. For the person who keeps thinking of someone they should have moved on from by now, yet somehow the feeling still lives under the surface like a quiet fire. And here is the strange part. It is not loud every day. It does not always arrive like drama. Sometimes it comes in silence, in a random thought, in a shift in your chest, in the feeling that someone is still tied to you even when no words are being spoken. There is a reason for that. Someone feels something powerful for you, deeply, secretly, in a way they may not even admit to themselves. But this connection feels blocked, restricted, almost forbidden, and that changes everything. Because when a bond feels impossible, it can become even stronger inside the people living it. So before you scroll away, listen closely. What you're about to hear may explain the distance, the tension, the mixed signals, and the strange way this connection refuses to disappear. And if this feels personal, that is because it is. Stay with me, because the deeper truth behind this bond is far more intense than it first appears. There is someone who does not feel ordinary about you. Not casually, not for fun, not in a passing way that fades after a few days. Their feelings move deeper than that, quietly, constantly, with more force than they want to admit. At first, you may have seemed like just another person in their world. Then you became someone they noticed more, then someone they respected, then someone they trusted. And before they understood what was happening, you became someone they could not stop thinking about. That is what makes this so difficult. The connection did not grow from boredom or convenience. It grew from recognition, from something in you that touched something in them. And that is exactly why it feels so charged now. What stands in the way is not a lack of feeling. It is timing, circumstance, responsibility, fear, rules, expectations, existing commitments, the kind of things that make people step back even when their heart wants to move closer. So, if you have been wondering why the energy feels so strong but the movement feels so limited, this is why. It is not always because someone cares less. Sometimes it is because they care too much, and they already know that one honest step forward could change more than they are ready to change. Keep listening, because that matters more than most people realize. This person is not fighting you. They are fighting themselves. That is the first truth you need to understand. They wake up with you already somewhere in their thoughts, and almost immediately they try to shut it down. They replay small moments. They remember your words. They remember the feeling of being seen by you, and then they pull back from it because wanting you feels dangerous to the life they have built. For some people, that danger comes from being tied somewhere else emotionally. For others, it comes from family pressure, social rules, personal beliefs, or a path they thought they were supposed to follow. Sometimes the issue is not that they do not want the connection. It is that the connection exposes how much of their life no longer feels true, so they stay quiet. They hold back. They watch instead of speak. They retreat instead of confess. And silence can fool people. It can look like calm. It can look like distance. It can look like indifference. But very often, silence is not emptiness. It is overload. It is what happens when someone feels too much and has no safe place to put those feelings. So if they seem controlled on the outside, do not assume there is nothing inside. The truth is usually the opposite, and this is where the push and pull begins. This is where the bond becomes heavier, more private, and more difficult to ignore. The more they resist, the more the feeling grows. That is what makes this kind of connection so intense. Suppressed emotion does not always fade. Sometimes it tightens. It condenses. It becomes stronger because it has nowhere to go. Every time they stop themselves from reaching out, the bond does not disappear. It goes deeper under the surface. Every time they choose restraint, the tension increases. Every time they pretend they are unaffected, the truth keeps pressing from underneath. That is why you may feel strange waves with this person. Moments when they seem close even in silence. Moments when they are distant, yet somehow still emotionally present. Moments when you think of them for no clear reason. Moments when the energy feels unfinished. It is unfinished. That is why it lingers. What has not been named, faced, or lived often keeps moving beneath the surface. It shapes emotions. It shapes timing. It shapes the strange feeling that something is happening even when nothing visible is happening. And on their side, this is exhausting. They may look composed, responsible, steady, but inside there is a constant negotiation between desire and control, truth and fear, honesty and consequence. If this connection feels heavy, it is because it carries more than attraction. It carries pressure. It carries meaning. It carries the possibility of change, and change is exactly what they are trying not to face. This is why distance has not brought the relief you expected. Time alone does not erase what has meaning. If this had been shallow, it would have faded by now. If it had only been chemistry, convenience, or curiosity, it would have burned out and gone cold. But it did not. It stayed. Maybe not in the same form every day, but it stayed. Because this bond is not being fed by habit. It is being fed by emotional truth. Something inside both of you shifted when this connection began. You may have felt it as recognition, familiarity, a strange ease, a silent understanding that made no sense on paper but felt real in your body. They felt it too. That is why this does not act like an ordinary attraction. It does not weaken just because it is inconvenient. It does not disappear because logic says it should. It keeps returning because there is something unfinished beneath it. And here is the part many people miss. This is not only about wanting each other. It is also about what each of you awakened in the other. You may have stirred parts of them that had been asleep for years. They may have reflected parts of you that were waiting to be seen. So yes, the longing matters. But beneath the longing, there is something even deeper. There is awakening. There is a truth coming closer to the surface, and that is why the bond feels so hard to dismiss. They may go through their days looking normal, focused on work, present with family, doing what they are supposed to do. But the mind circles back to what it cannot finish, and the heart returns to what made it feel alive. They remember how easy it felt with you. They remember how understood they felt without needing to explain every part of themselves. They remember small moments that should have meant less, yet somehow meant more. And that is exactly why those memories unsettled them. Because once someone feels seen at that level, they cannot fully go back to pretending shallow connection is enough. This is the private cost of holding back. What they suppress begins to show up in other ways. Restlessness, emotional distance, dissatisfaction with choices that once felt stable, questions they were not asking before. Why does this life feel tight now? Why does something feel missing? Why am I no longer fully at ease where I used to settle? And whether they say your name out loud or not, you become part of those questions. You become a silent contrast between the life they know and the truth they feel. So if you ever wondered whether this bond changed them too, the answer is yes. Maybe quietly, maybe invisibly. But yes, it changed how they see themselves. It changed what they can ignore. It changed what feels real. And once that kind of shift begins, it does not fully reverse. You are changing too. That is the second truth. This connection is not only pulling something out of them, it is also waking something up inside you. After meeting them, you may have noticed that your standards changed. What you once tolerated now feels empty. What once looked like affection now feels thin. What once passed as connection now feels like half presence. You are becoming more aware of what real depth feels like, and once you know that feeling, it becomes hard to settle for less. That is why letting go has felt complicated. It is not only about the person. It is about what the connection revealed. It showed you the level of honesty your heart is capable of. It showed you the kind of emotional resonance that actually nourishes you. It showed you the difference between attention and real recognition, and that matters. Because not every powerful bond arrives to become a lasting relationship right away. Some arrive first to wake you up, to sharpen your discernment, to make you less willing to betray yourself just to keep someone close. So, if you have felt torn between longing and growth, understand this clearly. The lesson of this connection is not to pause your life. It is to deepen your life. It is to make you more honest, more aware, more self-respecting, and more ready for the kind of love that does not require secrecy, confusion, or emotional starvation. That is not a small shift. That is transformation. Still, there is a reason this bond feels sacred and dangerous at the same time. It is because it does not just offer desire. It offers truth. And truth can feel threatening when people have spent years building a life around roles, routines, and expectations. You are not the reason everything feels unstable for them. You are the contrast that revealed what was already unstable. You did not break their world open. You lit up the places where it was already cracking. That is why they may move close, then pull back. That is why you may feel warmth from them one moment and distance the next. It is not because they do not know what they feel. It is because they do know, and knowing creates pressure. Pressure to choose, pressure to admit, pressure to change. Many people are not ready for that the moment truth arrives, so they delay. They rationalize. They tell themselves it is a phase. They call it imagination. They try to wait it out. But deep connections rarely disappear through neglect. They turn into inner pressure. They become the thing a person keeps meeting in quiet moments, in restless nights, in the empty space between what looks fine and what no longer feels right. If this sounds familiar, stay with me because this is where your role becomes important. Your job is not to carry their fear. Your job is not to decode every silence until it turns into certainty. Your job is to remain honest with yourself while truth works its way through both lives. That is where your power begins to return, because the most dangerous part of a hidden connection is not the longing itself. It is the way longing can make you forget yourself. It can make you watch for signs instead of living your life. It can make you hold space for potential while reality keeps giving you uncertainty. But something in you is changing now. You are learning that deep feeling does not mean endless waiting. You are learning that love should not require self-abandonment. You are learning that mystery is not the same as readiness, and intensity is not the same as alignment. This matters. It matters because it keeps your heart open without leaving your boundaries open to confusion. You can care and still stay grounded. You can feel the bond and still refuse to build your future around someone else's indecision. You can remain compassionate without making yourself emotionally available to endless half steps. That is maturity. That is what this experience is trying to teach you. And when you begin to hold the connection that way, something shifts. It may still matter deeply, but it stops owning you. It stops consuming your whole inner world. It becomes something you understand rather than something that rules you. And that changes everything, because from that place, you no longer need to chase clarity. Clarity begins to show itself through actions, timing, consistency, and truth. Keep listening, because the next part is where this bond reaches its real test. If this connection is ever going to become something real in the outside world, it will need more than feeling, more than chemistry, more than silent understanding. It will need courage, mutual courage, the courage to speak plainly, the courage to stop hiding behind circumstances that no longer match the truth, the courage to let behavior line up with emotion. Without that, even the deepest connection stays suspended. Meaningful, yes. Powerful, yes. But incomplete. And maybe that used to terrify you. Maybe the idea of incompleteness felt like loss. But now you are starting to see something bigger. Meaning does not depend only on outcome. Some bonds become a shared future. Some bonds become a turning point. Some become the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. That does not make them less real. It simply defines their role. So if this person ever reaches the point where they are truly ready, you will not have to guess. It will not come through riddles. It will not come through half messages, emotional hovering, or long stretches of confusion. Real readiness moves differently. It chooses clearly. It shows up openly. It acts with consistency. And if that does not happen, that is information too. Silence is not always mystery. Inaction is still an answer. Delay is still a form of choice. This is why your path forward cannot depend on whether they awaken in time. Your life is asking you to move with integrity now, not later. And that is exactly what you are becoming capable of doing. As time moves forward, one of two things usually happens in a connection like this. A person rises to the truth they feel, or they retreat deeper into what feels safe. Some choose honesty over comfort. Some choose growth over the life that only looks stable from the outside. Some finally admit that what they feel cannot be managed forever. But others double down. They hide inside routine. They protect the image of their life. They call numbness peace because real change asks too much of them. Both paths reveal something important, not through promises, but through behavior. And behavior is where your answers live now. Not in signs, not in energy alone, not in fantasy. In behavior, in choice, in action over time. So this is the place where you must stay anchored. Not cold, not closed, just anchored. You do not need to rescue them from fear. You do not need to wait in emotional limbo so they can slowly decide whether truth is convenient. You do not need to carry a connection alone and call that devotion. What you need is balance, openness without self-betrayal, warmth without self-erasure, hope without losing judgment. That is the deeper lesson here. This bond came into your life to refine your heart, not to trap it. To raise your standards, not lower them. To make you more honest about what real love requires. And what real love requires is not secret intensity alone. It requires participation, presence, responsibility, courage from both sides, not just one. So now the connection begins to look different. It may still touch you, it may still mean something, but it no longer asks you to disappear inside it. You are starting to understand that some of the strongest bonds in life are not here to be possessed. They are here to awaken. They come in with force. They stir the soul. They break old patterns, they reveal hidden hunger, and then they ask a question that changes everything. Will you return to sleep, or will you become more honest after feeling this? That is the real turning point, not whether someone is secretly obsessed with you, Not whether the timing ever lines up perfectly, but whether you remember your own worth while standing inside a powerful emotion. And look at what you are learning now. You are learning to feel deeply without collapsing into fantasy. You are learning to trust your intuition without giving up logic. You are learning that a beautiful connection can be meaningful and still not be enough unless it becomes grounded in reality. That insight will protect you for the rest of your life. It will stop you from calling crumbs a feast. It will stop you from confusing emotional tension with emotional availability. It will stop you from shrinking your needs just because the bond feels rare. That is growth. Quiet growth. Strong growth. The kind that changes how you love, how you choose, how you walk away, and how you recognize what is truly ready for you when it finally arrives. And yes, there is still a chance that one day this person reaches the edge of their own truth and decides they can no longer live divided. That day may come quietly, not with drama, not with performance, but with clarity. They may finally realize that what they have been avoiding has only grown heavier in silence. They may finally see that staying where they are is costing more than the risk of honesty. They may finally understand that truth does not become less true just because it is inconvenient. If that day comes, you will feel the difference immediately. Not because the energy is intense, but because it is clean, direct, responsible, steady. There will be less guessing and more choosing, less tension and more truth, less symbolism and more presence. But until that day, if it comes at all, your task remains the same. Continue living, continue growing, continue becoming someone who does not confuse hidden feeling with lived love. Someone who stays open to what is real, not just what is possible. Someone who knows that love should expand life, not shrink it into waiting. That is the quiet strength you are stepping into now. And if this message is reaching you at the exact right moment, that is because some part of you is already ready to hear it. So keep going. Stay with your own truth. Let actions reveal what words never could. And remember this as deeply as you can. What is truly meant for you will not ask you to betray yourself in order to receive it. In the end, this story was never only about another person's hidden feelings. It was also about your awakening, about the way this connection forced you to see what you can no longer accept, what you truly need, and how much of yourself you are no longer willing to lose in the name of love. That is the real gift here. You are not the same person who first entered this bond. You see more clearly now. You understand that deep emotion without honesty becomes suffering. You understand that recognition without action remains incomplete. You understand that longing is not proof of destiny, and silence is not always sacred. Sometimes silence is just fear wearing a beautiful mask. And you are no longer here to romanticize fear. You are here for truth, for mutual effort, for connection that can stand in daylight, not just in private thoughts. So whether this person ever chooses courage or remains only a chapter that changed you, you are already moving towards something stronger. You are becoming someone who honors depth without abandoning self. Someone who can love without dissolving. Someone who can release what is unclear and still remain open to what is real. That is not loss, that is alignment. That is what this bond came to awaken. So if you needed a final answer, here it is. You do not need to chase what cannot yet stand beside you. You only need to keep becoming the version of yourself that recognizes real love when it arrives, receives it without fear, and never again mistakes confusion for fate.